Today on Rappler, Malacanang slams the door on President Aquino seeking a second term.
We suffer from perception that indeed we're nothing but a house of thieves.
Senate President Drilon vows to revive trust in the Senate after corruption scandals portrayed it as a house of thieves. And Liberia declares a state of emergency as Ebola deaths near 1,000.
Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Malacanang distances itself from comments made by Interior Secretary Mar Rojas that the President Aquino, should stay in office for another term to continue his reform agenda. Communications Secretary Sunny Coloma says the basic principle here is clear. He has been counting the days and months left in his term, and never did it cross his mind to aspire or ask for another term because our Constitution is clear in that regard. Coloma's words end speculations Aquino may be open to pursuing a second term, possible only through charter change. A day before, presidential spokesman Edwin Lacerda fanned the flames by saying the president may be persuaded by his bosses, the president's euphemism for the Filipino people. Under the Constitution, the president can only be elected once to a single 6-year term. Lacerda says many others share the Rojas sentiment, referring to the Facebook page One More Term for Pinoy, which got over 1,000 likes since it was created on June 24. Lacerda's statement comes at a time when Aquino's approval and trust ratings are at their lowest since he took office in 2010, following the uproar over the government's controversial spending program. Not all of Aquino's supporters welcome this idea. Senator Chis Escudero hits Rojas for raising the idea and Lacerda for issuing a questionable statement. Escudero adds, "It's not allowed by the Constitution. I don't think they should even be toying with that idea." Vice President Jejomar Binay says he's humbled by the trust shown by the Aquino sisters, who say he can continue the president's programs. Actress Kris Aquino earlier said she and her sisters are discussing the possibility of their brother endorsing Binay in the 2016 presidential polls. In her evening show on ABS-CBN, she said, "We're not enemies, and if he's going to continue what Noy has started, why not?" In response, Binay says, "I am humbled that they see me as someone who can continue the good programs of the president." Binay, a family friend of the Aquinos, supported the late President Cory Aquino during the Marcos dictatorship. He's not a member of the president's Liberal Party or LP. The ruling party is fielding Binay's rival, Interior Secretary Mar Rojas. Senate President Frank Drilon admits the Senate's reputation is at a low point, with legislators seen as thieves. The latest Pulse Asia survey shows the Senate's approval and trust ratings diminished in the aftermath of corruption scandals and disputed spending programs.
The supplemental budget must come from the House. This is one of the measures that we have, strategies that we have devised in order indeed to regain the confidence of our people, not only in the Senate but in Congress in general, because we suffer from perception that indeed we're nothing but a house of thieves.
But taking a long view of history, Drilon says it's a functioning democracy and a work in progress. He says the Philippine government is strong enough to withstand the tensions it faces now. From 1986 to today, we have come a long way, or maybe not. How would you assess Philippine democracy today?
Well, Maria, for all its warts, I think we have a working democracy. We have a very free press, which is very critical as an institution of democracy. We can change leaders peacefully, except for some upheavals in the year 2000. But generally, we hold elections to change leaders, and that's very critical. You don't hear any more of soldiers trying to, quote, protect the people through coup d'etats. We have still 2 years to the election, Maria. 1 week is too long in politics.
Certainly very noisy politics here.
1 week can change the fortunes of a candidate.
Drilon says he respects the anti-graft court, the Sandigan Bayan's decision on the preventive suspension of Senators Bong Revilla, Jinggoy Estrada, and Juan Ponce Enrile because of plunder charges. Drilon vows to, in his words, revive the people's faith in the Senate.
I said we must restore the faith of our people in our Senate, because not only must we make ourselves relevant, but we must show to our people that indeed we need the Senate, and a total collapse of the Senate would not be good for us.
So he defends the Disbursement Acceleration Program, or DAP, saying public perception clouds reality. He says the government branches involved are going through due process.
I am sure that over time, firstly, over time, I think people will understand what the real score is, what are the legal issues concerned. This is really that the transfer of funds from one item to the other is valid. But I am not saying that the misuse of the funds is valid. That's a completely different picture. It is just a question of whether the president can utilize the savings to augment other items of the budget. That one is defensible.
The Philippine Long Distance Telephone Company, or PLDT, acquires 10% of German business incubator Rocket Internet. PLDT will invest 333 million euros or 445 million US dollars for a 10% stake and will jointly develop mobile and online payment technologies and services. In the Philippines, Rocket Internet is known for online commerce sites Lazada and Zalora, as well as taxi booking service Easy Taxi. PLDT Chair Manny Pangilinan says pursuing digital partnerships is one of the company's strategic initiatives to drive growth. PLDT is the third external investor in Rocket Internet. The company will have the right to appoint one member of Rocket Internet's 9-person supervisory board. More than 2,000 Filipinos sign up to flee Libya. The North African country is on the brink of civil war as fighting continues between rival militias in Tripoli and bloody clashes between Islamists and Army Special Forces in Benghazi. This means around 22.8% of the original 13,000 Filipinos in Libya have either arrived in the Philippines or signed up for repatriation. It's a small number compared to the 13,500 Filipino workers who fled Libya in 2011 during the unrest that toppled dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Some Filipinos earlier refused to leave Libya, afraid of losing their jobs. Liberia declares a state of emergency with deaths from the Ebola outbreak across West Africa nearing 1,000. Calling for 3 days of fasting and prayer, Liberia's President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf says extraordinary measures are needed for, quote, the very survival of our state. Some 300 Liberians have been infected by the disease. The World Health Organization, or WHO, records 1,711 confirmed since the start of the year, mostly in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. There are fears the disease is also spreading to Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria. In an emergency session in Geneva, the WHO is deciding whether to declare an international crisis. Ebola spreads through contact with body fluids like blood, saliva, and sweat. Over the last 4 decades, 2/3 of those infected with the virus died. A Cambodian court sentences 2 former Khmer Rouge leaders to life in jail. 88-year-old Nuon Chia and 83-year-old former head of state Khieu Samphan were found guilty of crimes against humanity, of extermination, political persecution, and other inhumane acts. The verdict comes after a 2-year trial against the most senior surviving officials of the Khmer Rouge regime. 1/4 of Cambodia's population were killed or died from starvation and overwork from 1975 to 1979. Throughout the trial, the 2 denied knowledge of the regime's crimes during the killing fields, but eventually expressed remorse for the suffering inflicted on the Cambodian people by the Khmer Rouge. Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 8, a man suspected of stealing the medical file of injured Formula One champion Michael Schumacher was found hanged in his cell Wednesday. The man worked for the Swiss helicopter air rescue company, which handled Schumacher's transport from a French hospital to Switzerland in June. He was arrested this week but denied accusations he stole Schumacher's medical records and offered them to journalists for $68,000. Last month, investigators managed to track down the IP address of the computer used in the theft and arrested the suspect. At number 9, online news site Recode reports Apple is preparing to unveil its long-anticipated large-screen iPhone on September 9. While there have been reports about the launch of the new handsets, this is the first report with a precise date. Recode says Apple will announce its next-generation iPhones with screen sizes stretched to 4.7 and 5.5 inches and with a faster processor. And at number 10, the stars of the live-action film RUROUNI Kenshin say they're honored that fans responded so well to the movie version of the beloved manga and anime series. Actors Takeru Sato, Emi Takei, and Munetaka Aoki are in Manila for the red carpet Asian premiere of the film. Takeru Sato plays the titular Kenshin, an ex-assassin who is resolved never to kill again. He meets Kaoru Kamiya, a young woman defending her dojo against a sinister killer. The show captivated fans with its sophisticated action scenes and its social commentary on the effects of violence long after a war. The film hits theaters August 20th. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Philippine football team coach Thomas Dooley addresses the controversy surrounding some members of the Ascal's team Thursday. Earlier this week, Ascal players Stephen Schrock and Dennis Gagara announced their resignation from the team, saying Dooley was their reason for quitting. Dooley says he's disappointed with both players. He says Schrock's resignation on social media is unacceptable and unprofessional. He adds there's nothing personal in his critique of Kagara. Dooley says they never kicked out Schrock, Kagara, and prized goalkeeper Neil Etheridge. Etheridge was also left out of the Peace Cup along with Kagara. Dooley says he did not field Schrock in the AFC Challenge Cup game versus the Maldives last May because he wanted to save the athlete for the finals.
I'm sad of the situation, what's happening, because when you look at all the work we did so far, and you have 3 players that are selfish and putting themselves in front of everything. I said the most important thing is you have the best team, not the best player. Even if the best player does something like this, it's kind of poison for the team. So we have to go against that.
Team manager Dan Palami says the issue boils down to an athlete's concerns over playing time versus the coach's decision.
I'm sure everybody, and as I said, everybody has the same mission, an objective and desire, and that is to bring Philippine football to the world stage and to unite the Filipinos through the sport.
South African Olympian Oscar Pistorius is due back in court Thursday for the final phase of his dramatic murder trial. Pistorius faces a minimum of 25 years in prison if convicted of the premeditated murder of his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. He admits shooting Steenkamp 4 times through a locked toilet door on Valentine's Day, but says he thought she was an intruder. Even if found innocent of premeditated murder, Pistorius could still be convicted and imprisoned on charges of murder or culpable homicide. The defense argues Pistorius is obsessed with safety, a result of a difficult childhood and his disability. The double amputee star sprinter rose to fame when he competed alongside able-bodied normal runners at the 2012 London Olympics. Once a poster boy for disabled sports, he's been stripped of lucrative endorsements and withdrew from competitions since his case. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter, which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories that have gotten the most number of votes on their mood meter, that had the most emotional impact on our viewers and readers. If you take a look, these 10 stories have gotten the most number of votes. And we take a look today, you saw Aquino sisters open to endorsing BINAY. Interestingly, you have 66% angry and 7% happy that Green connected to the story that's gotten the most number of votes in the last 24 hours. 6 more years as president, Aquino to listen to his bosses. This is quite interesting. 37% angry, 54% happy. Bringing out the mood of the day. Today, most people are happy. Well, that is Rappler's newscast for today, Thursday, August 7, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.